I'm just gonna wait for a few people to go on. So I'm doing this live. For those of you who will be seeing it on YouTube, it was a live podcast. I hope you enjoy it. I'm gonna go between 25 and 45 minutes, and I'm just gonna wait about 20 more seconds to see if people come on. And depending on who comes on, I'm gonna start after that. Hello, hi guys. So here we go. Tonight I'm going to be talking about what I eat, why I eat that way, and that's going to go about 25 minutes, 30 minutes maybe. And then we're going to do a meditation. But before we do the meditation, I'm going to teach you tricks I use to meditate better. I have everything written down, so you might see me look at my notepad from time to time. That's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions starting off, I'll give you like a few seconds to write them in. If not, I'm just gonna start and talk all the way through. And as I'm talking, you can also leave me some messages or some questions or whatever. Okay, so here we go. So last week I did my first online podcast or video, and I was asked what I eat, why I eat that way. I was asked questions about meditation and so on and so forth. So I'm going to try and cover all these subjects as best I can. It'll be very helpful if you guys interact with me and leave me questions. At the end, if you like, you could leave me a small donation at dragonflowyoga@gmail.com. If not, you could just watch for free. I'm doing it for fun, and I'm trying to just deliver helpful information to you. So, everyone's heard of intermittent fasting. I've actually been intermittent fasting since I was in my 20s. So, started at about 23 years old, and then I abandoned it for a while. So, 23 years old makes it about 16 years that I was intermittent fasting. So, essentially, I was intermittent fasting before I even knew what intermittent fasting is. If you don't know what intermittent fasting is, I'll give you a quick review of it. So intermittent fasting is when you have a 14 to 18 hour block throughout your 24-hour day whereby you don't eat. Your sleeping counts as part of the fast. So if you sleep 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, that 9 hours is part of your fast. And if you want to reach a 14-hour fast, this would mean that you don't eat the first 5 hours that you're up. If you sleep 8 hours and you want to take it to 14, this would be 6 hours. I used to go up to 16, sometimes even 18-hour fast. What this essentially does is it strengthens the bacteria in your gut flora. So in your gut flora, there's a bunch of different bacteria that are there to digest different types of foods. When you're fasting, you actually kill the weaker bacteria and allow the stronger bacteria to thrive. This creates a far better digestion long term. Also, I call it earning your first meal. If you wake up and you eat right away and then you're tired, that's because you ate food that's not designed for your species, you ate too much food, and you didn't earn your meal. You got to visualize that you're in a natural environment such as the forest or the jungle. You wouldn't wake up and have a refrigerator widely available for you where you can open it up and prepare eggs, bacon, so on and so forth. So you want to earn your first meal. So in a natural environment, you would get up, do a little walk, do a little run, do a little foraging of berries. Maybe you would catch a squirrel, a rabbit, whatever it is whatever environment you were in. You wouldn't wake up and eat right away. Also, the problem with eating right away is that in the morning, your body is getting ready to go to the washroom and do number two. If you eat right away, you're giving your body two commands now. And the one command is to go to the washroom, and the other command is to digest. Your body is not an efficient Macintosh computer, it's more of a PC. It does one command at a time efficiently. So the morning should actually be a preparation for going number two. So the thing I do in the morning to promote my fast is I have green teas or herbs, or I have a concoction of herbs. In fact, there's an Ayurvedic doctor that taught me this amazing herb blend. It's cumin, coriander, and fennel. You take like a teaspoon of each, you boil it, you make about a liter and a half of water, you drink it toward in the morning. The heated liquid and herbs loosen up the stool and help you go to the washroom and promotes better digestion. Also, I love training on an empty stomach, and therefore I train in the morning during my fast. Why? Because I want to earn my meal. So I'm working hard, my body's breaking out in a sweat, I'm going to the washroom throughout that period, and then I could start eating again. So why do you want to fast? Essentially, you want to fast because it actually promotes weight loss. You have more energy. So less digesting equals more energy. More digesting equals less energy. There's two functions that are very, very taxing on your body, and one of them is procreation, so producing for women producing eggs, for men producing semen, and the other one is digestion. If you could relax on digestion, your body heals faster and you have more energy. You'll know this like on Christmas night or on New Year's night or whenever that there's some kind of festivity. You eat a lot and then you're tired and you're done for the night. Okay, there is benefits of eating bread and all that stuff, and in some cases there's benefits of eating a lot, just because the body goes through this thing called feast and famine. You eat like reasonably for a certain amount of weeks or months, and then all in one sitting you like pig out, and maybe you do that for a couple of days. The problem in our society is there's too much feast and not enough famine, and when you're always feasting, you're training your body to constantly digest, and this makes you weak and it makes you tired, and it's not good for the for your longevity. It's not good for your digestion, and it's not good for like your number two. So next thing, aside from fasting, what I do weekly is I have like juice days. So I squeeze either celery juice or apple juice or beet juice or orange juice or whatever, and I have this throughout my morning. So there's a difference between juice and smoothies, and both of them have advantages and both of them have disadvantages. So the advantages of juicing is that all the vitamins and minerals from the fruit or vegetable go straight into your bloodstream. So there's nothing that needs to be digested. So you have your carrot juice, you drink it straight into the bloodstream, it goes, and you're set to go. Okay. The downside of juicing is you don't have the fibers from the fruit or the vegetables. And fibers were designed, as my teacher says, by universal intelligence to help clean the colon. They're the sweeper of the body. So the reason you need fiber is fiber creates kind of like a flow, right? I eat fiber, it brushes away the old stuff that I ate and it brings it out. Okay. But this takes a little bit more time to digest, and fiber is not as the fiber in the fruit and vegetable is not as nutritious as the straight juice. So there is pros and cons to having just fruit juices, and there's pros and cons to having smoothies. I usually do a little bit of both. So example, for like a week straight, I had about 2.5 liters of juice in the morning, and sometimes in the evening, if I've eaten too heavy the prior meals, I'll have like 1.5 liters of smoothies. Tonight I had like fresh aloe vera smoothie with oranges, kiwis, lemons, and so on. Also, I try and make sure that I have, let's say, a big smoothie a few hours after I've eaten a big protein meal, because or else the protein meal is going to constipate me and it won't create any flow. And I want to get into the idea of should you be eating meat, shouldn't you be eating meat, and we're going to discuss that a little bit also. Okay, so raw food versus cooked food. So here's the thing: raw food is better than cooked food in that the fibers of the raw food are more alive, and they're gonna sweep your gut flora better, so you can digest better. Okay. The problem with eating too much raw is if your body's overly intoxicated, what's going to happen is that your organs are going to clean very quickly, and your bowel is going to get slightly encrassé, they say in French, stuck. So you want to make sure that if you start eating raw food like straight away, you need a system where you're having a lot of you need to create a system where you're going to the washroom regularly. And this is where water enemas or coffee enemas, which we discussed last week, are very important. So you can actually start eating very healthy and be constipated if your bowel isn't working fast enough, if your bowel isn't working altogether, or if the other organs are eliminating quicker than your colon could handle it. This won't be the case with everyone, so I just want you to keep an open mind. Like, a lot of you will start eating raw food, and within a day or two, you're going to start going to the washroom 3-4 times a day, and the flow is going to be amazing. But it could be that you eat raw vegan starting tonight, and for a few days you'll be constipating because the fibers and the raw speeds up the flow. And this is why in some cases combining cooked foods could be very helpful to manage the organs detoxing too quickly. Also with warm food, I like warm foods like soups and bouillons, and let's say, like, if you heat up rashi or shaga or whatever, I like them warm. It does loosen up your bowels, so it's actually easier to go to the washroom in some instances. Do you guys have any questions so far? No? Okay. So, raw versus cooked, I have a little bit of both. You can have a bit of raw, a bit of cooked. Eventually, once you feel that your bowel movements are regular and there's a constant flow, you could do as much raw as possible. And the reason that is when you cook food, you kill off a lot of the vitamins and minerals. So it's like, already, because the soils are nutrient poor, because they're mass producing fruits and vegetables, already there's a lot of vitamins and minerals that are missing from the fruits and vegetables. So if you're cooking it on top of that, you're basically destroying all the nutrient properties of your food. So try and have as much raw as possible. I know it's winter, so the question might be, yes, but when I eat raw, I get cold. Make sure, if you're going to make a salad, that you have your vegetables outside of your fridge for at least a few hours, so that you have your salad at room temperature. You can have your fruits at room temperature. Obviously, if my fridge is freezing and outside it's freezing and I eat cold fruits and vegetables, my body's going to get cold. But if you have room temperature fruits and vegetables, your body's not necessarily going to get cold. And it's because it's raw, it's going to be better for your body. The fibers are going to be better for your body, and digestion is going to be better. Okay, so I have questions from vegans or vegetarians. Meat, no meat, what do I do? Okay, so here's the thing. I'm personally not vegan. Maybe I will be one day, but it doesn't correspond to what feels natural to me right now. So what I'm going to tell you is this: you do have to feel it up. The thing with protein coming from animal proteins, or proteins in general, is that they're not always the easiest to digest. Which doesn't mean that because they're not the easiest to digest that you shouldn't be eating them, because you do need protein to build your muscle fibers and basically to have a complete and sound body. And so actually, the word protein means of the utmost importance, which it's not necessarily at the utmost importance, but protein glues everything together. So if you don't have protein, you're not really going to have that much energy. You're not really going to be able to hold yourself up. This being said, I don't believe that you should be having 30, 40, 50% of your plate in protein. Now, every diet has pros and cons, and you have to ask yourself honest and sincerely as to why you're eating the way that you're eating. So I'll give you an example. If I want to be a bodybuilder and I want to gain 30 pounds of lean muscle mass, eating a lot of protein will definitely help my sport. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm healthier than the person taking long walks and eating just a little bit of protein, and he has like a 2-hour mild training regimen a week, right? So eating for your sport doesn't necessarily mean that it's the healthiest diet. Okay, so like if you see a sumo wrestler eat, they eat a lot. They eat a lot of rice. They're very efficient in their sport, and they're eating for their sport, but they're not necessarily healthy. So you want to ask yourself if what you're eating is because you want to be healthy or because it's going to help you with your sport. Now, if those two roads could meet and you could be eating in such a way that you're super healthy and you're super efficient at your sport and you optimize those two ideas, then you're doing amazing. But if you're eating in such a way that makes you look aesthetically beautiful, but you're inflated, you're going to the washroom once every 2 days, you're super built, but you have a gut, you have to ask yourself questions, because that gut means maybe you're having too much protein, and or you're mixing foods that you shouldn't be mixing together. And number one, protein doesn't always digest well with other foods. So example, I wouldn't necessarily have a big steak with fruits and vegetables. Okay, so like I would just have my steak or a little bit of vegetables maybe, but certain proteins don't digest well with other foods. If I'm gonna have beans, I don't mix them with other things, because beans don't always mix well. If you're gassy after you eat beans, it could be that there's something wrong with your gut flora, but it could also be that you had beans with other things that you shouldn't be mixing with. And again, beans don't mix well with other things. Also, here's the thing, it's like protein is a builder, okay? Fruits are a cleanser. And in some ways, vegetables are also a builder, but vegetables also have cleansing elements more than protein. But essentially, protein is a builder, vegetables a builder, and fruits are cleansers, okay? So here's the thing, it's hard to build super efficiently and cleanse super efficiently. And that's why sometimes like a cleansing diet, like if you go to a naturopath, like a cleansing diet, they might ask you to relax on the animal protein. It's not to say you're never going to have animal protein ever again, but you have to relax on the animal protein because it slows down the cleansing. I have a little homework for you guys just for fun. Like next time you eat meat, notice that the next day you'll be slightly more constipated. You might still go to the washroom, but your colon is going to be a little bit stuck. Okay? And so again, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't eat meat. But if you're always eating meat and your colon gets more and more stuck, then you know that there's a problem. Now, if you have like a coach that's like training you for strength and training you for power, he might suggest a higher protein diet. And that's good in a sense because it's for your sport. But again, you have to ask yourself if your sport is making you healthy, or you're healthier than somebody who's like I don't know, weighs 95 pounds and doesn't power lift and doesn't train for power, but he eats more fruits and vegetables and a more adequate amount of protein, than somebody who's like powerlifting. His muscles are super beautiful, but he doesn't tell you what his bowel movements are like, because actually nobody talks about that stuff. But it's very important to know, right? Because on the surface we're envying these people because they look super beautiful, but we don't really know what's going on in their body. So it's very important to know what's going on in their body, and it's very important to differentiate from eating for my sport or eating for health. Now, sometimes when you're eating for health and you're trying to clean, you want to not do protein so much because it's going to prevent the cleaning. But once you're done cleaning, you could reintroduce some of the protein and eat it in a way that's beneficial and not pounding down on your colon. Okay, so actually this is very important. Yeah, if you guys look online, there's this system of you could call it cure. It's called Iridology, where you look at all the different areas of the eye, and it'll tell you what weaknesses you have in your body, which strengths you have in your body, what is deteriorating in your body, what is healing in your body, and so on and so forth. And the only diet that showed healing, believe it or not, was a mainly plant-based diet with maybe 4% protein coming from wherever. It could have came from animals, it could have came from beans, it could have came from your plants. So one of the only cures that showed consistent healing was mainly a plant-based diet. Here's the thing though, it's not because your body's healing that you're necessarily super strong and ready to run an Ironman. So here's where eating for health and eating to heal and eating to perform in your sport are not necessarily the same thing. So like I would eat a big plate of pasta if tomorrow I'm going to have a 3-hour workout, but I'm not necessarily going to have a big plate of pasta if my kidneys are shot and I have some form of kidney stones, or I have gallbladder stones or whatever. I wouldn't necessarily have that plate of pasta, because cleaning is not the same as building. Eating to heal is not the same thing as eating to perform in your sport. So you have to understand that. And so this discussion came from my friend because his sons are all like powerlifters. And I said, listen, they could eat whatever they want, but they have to know the difference between eating for their sport and eating to clean and eating to be healthy. You can eat to be a power lifter and you will be a successful power lifter, but it doesn't mean that you're eating for the long-term success of your body's your body being stable. So anyways, so look up iridology. You'll learn the different areas of the eye. You can study your own eye. You could see if there's something wrong with your colon, something wrong with your stomach. You could see if there's anything wrong with your glands, and so on and so forth. And then you could adjust. And so, like I said, one of the only diets that shows healing all around the eye is mainly a plant-based diet. But when you're healing, there's a very good chance that you won't be performing in your sports as efficiently as you were before when you were eating the bread or you were eating the high-protein diet, etc., etc. So another thing is, from a longevity vantage point, and you guys could look it up, it's all documented, high protein versus low protein. If you study they're called blue zones. So in the world, there's a few different sectors of people that live anywhere between 90 and beyond. And there's a few of these places. One of them is in Greece. One of them is in Japan. It's called Okinawa. There's a few in Italy. One's called Campo di Miele. One is in Sardinia. I forgot the name. There's one in California. There's one in Pakistan. I think they're called the Hanzas. And there's one in China. Anyways, these people live like 90 and beyond with really good mobility. They have a good sense of humor. They love life, and they're doing amazing, right? And so these people actually eat a low protein diet, very low, like 4 to 10%. They're not power lifters. They're probably not running Ironmans, but they're all very, very skinny. They're very, very lanky. They're skinnier than I am, but they're living a lot. So this is one of the keys that tells you what the best diet would be for a healthy, long-lived body. Now, there's other factors at hand, which I want to talk about. They do have more pristine water and more pristine air supply. I mean, so fair enough. But a lot of places in the world have pristine water and pristine air supply. But let's say they eat maybe a diet too rich in protein, too rich in cheese, too rich in complex carbohydrates, and therefore they're not necessarily as healthy as they could potentially be. So from a health vantage point, from a longevity vantage point, having a mainly plant-based diet is really the way to go. And I'm not cutting out the protein. I had meat just today. I'm just saying it's like, except for sports-specific situations, which is maybe you're preparing for a bodybuilding competition, maybe you're a power lifter, maybe you train 2-3 hours a day in a gym, having a high meat diet isn't for the average person. And if you don't believe me, you can look up these places. Just like Akari in Greece, Campo di Miele in Italy, Okinawa in Japan, look up the Hansa tribe. They all have like a low protein, low meat diet. That being said, they don't necessarily train 2 or 3 hours a day. They go about their day, they take long walks, they chat. Oh, and there's also another place in Calabria, which I think one of the oldest living men in Europe was from. He lived something like 115 years old, like a ridiculous amount of time. So, another thing I was asked is what supplements I would take at these particular times. If I lost you guys, please have your radars on, because these are the most important supplements that you should take at these particular times, and I'll explain exactly why. Okay, so you should take a liquid vitamin C, a liquid calcium, or try and get calcium from your foods. There's a lot of green foods that have a lot of calcium: spinach, broccoli, kale, anything in the cruciferous family. So calcium. Vitamin D comes from the sun, but you could get it from eggs, sunflower seed, and certain types of fish like cod. Okay, and magnesium. Magnesium is a muscle relaxant. It makes your muscles relax. And the magnesium and the vitamin D help with the calcium absorption. Okay, so why do you need particularly these 3 supplements? I'm going to get to it. Drum roll. So right now in the world of COVID, or in the world of like winter, it's easier to get sick, right? So what happens when you get sick is there's a lot of acid being produced in the body. So acid, like we discussed last week, is mucus, okay? The best thing that buffers mucus or that buffers acid is calcium, okay? Now, if your vitamin D supply is low or you don't have adequate vitamin D, and your magnesium supply is low, it's very hard to absorb calcium. So you want to make sure you have vitamin D and magnesium in order to better absorb your calcium. The calcium absorption will help you in defending your immune system when you're sick. So actually what's happening in cases, let's say somebody has osteoporosis, it's like there's not enough calcium in the body to buffer acid or to maintain itself. So the blood is mining it from the bones. Okay, so you have to take active care to get rich calcium coming from vegetables so that you can buffer this acid and you can stay strong. Okay, the more they actually did a test a few months back, and it said people that were getting COVID and that were like getting really sick from COVID is because they were lacking vitamin D. So now, why do you think that is? You're lacking vitamin D. You're not able to absorb the calcium. The calcium isn't buffering the acid in your body, and therefore you're getting slightly more sick than in fact you should be. So those are the 3 supplements I would recommend. I would recommend magnesium, calcium, vitamin D. As I mentioned last week, I do the cleansing drink, so I have a lot of flax, a lot of psyllium seed husk, which is Metamucil, chlorophyll. I have a lot of aloe vera from the actual plant or the gel, and that's pretty much it as opposed to supplements. So next thing, if you guys want to stay, we're going to do like a 10-15 minute meditation. You can put on a piece of music that you're comfortable with, that you like. On my end, I won't put music because I'm doing it live in front of my computer and you won't hear the music very, very well. Before we meditate, I want to give you guys some ideas that I have borrowed from Jordan Peterson. So he has a new book coming out. It's called 12 New Rules. And in the book, he taught one of his chapters, one of the rules is try and eliminate the fog. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact title, but try and undo the fog. So if you're grumpy or you're upset or you're having like a bad period, you want to figure out where this fog is coming from. Are you pissed off because you're in isolation? Are you pissed off because one of your family members is not nice to you? Are you pissed off because your boss is not nice to you? Are you pissed off because you're not pursuing your ideals? And it's okay to be honest with this and put it on the table for yourself to look at and to observe. So it'll still be foggy for the next few days because feelings are residual. But at least by looking at it and saying, okay, that's it. This is why I'm upset. Then you can sort of move forward. And I don't feel that you can meditate unless you're honest about some of the things that you're going through. Because or else the meditation is only going to create more noise and you're not going to be comfortable in your body. So really try and observe and find out the thing that's creating fog in your life. And so this is actually how Jordan Peterson put it, which was amazing. He says, if we have fog and we take out the fog, he says, you'll still have like rocks with spikes and blades on them. He says, and maybe holes that you can fall into, right? Because that's just life. But at least you see them now, right? So you take out the fog, and by taking out the fog, you see the challenges that are there before you. Whereas with the fog, the challenges are there, but you don't see them. So you're actually more prone to hurt yourself in that mist. Okay. So then the next thing I want you to ask yourself is, I feel personally with me, whenever I'm thinking too much, either there's like the voice in my head is judging me, so it's like it's a me, I guess, if you want, the version of me judging me, or it's like a discourse between two people that both of these people, if like it or not, they're both me, and they're arguing against each other, and so they're fighting against each other. And I might be pretending that the voice is like my mom or my boss or whoever it is, but it's not. It's actually like my interpretation of the person's voice and my interpretation of my voice, like battling it out with each other. And it basically drives you crazy. So I did this thing where I create like a third party, like a narrative, like a third person narrative, right? Where I try and calm down the things that are happening in my head. And this third person narrative, I design them on purpose to calm things down. So I have an idea of what I want them to say. I have an idea of what I want him to look. I have this idea that he has to remain very calm and be very objective to what's going on. And so when you're meditating, if there's like this critic, which is judging you, like you want to be able to hone in on that critic and convince him otherwise, that maybe the things that he's saying about you are not necessarily true. If you have like a war in your head where one or two people are fighting, then what you want to do is you want to create the third party negative. You want to create the third party narrative to kind of calm them down. And so essentially, all these characters in your head are you, and at the same time, all these characters in your head are not you. But you are responsible for directing the thought pattern, even though maybe you're not used to doing so, but you are responsible for directing the thought pattern. So here we go. We're going to go for about 10-15 minutes. I want you to close your eyes, and if you haven't put the nice piece of music, I'll give you another 15-20 seconds to put it. I want you to close your eyes and just breathe deep into your nose, into your chest, into your armpits, and push it all the way into your scapulas. Fill up your belly, hold, and exhale. We're going to take 2 more breaths just like that. Inhale. Hold. And exhale. And 1 more breath. Exhale. Now I want you to keep your eyes closed. And in this meditation, I want you to give yourself permission to try and organize your thoughts. I want you to hear this third person narrative being kind to you and treating you in a way that is worthy of your skills, your talents, and your beauty. I want this third person to tell you everything you've always needed to hear. You are talented, you are capable, you are wonderful, you are magical. You fill in the dots. If there's any skepticism or criticism that arises, just observe it and allow the third person to cancel it out. Keep breathing into the chest, into the belly. Hold your breath. Hold it. And exhale. Give yourself total permission to be completely relaxed, to connect your mind with your body. Feel your toes, feel your feet as you inhale. And as you continue to breathe, notice that even the third party starts to fade out. And all that's left is the sound of your breath. And maybe the sound of the music that you put on. Keep breathing into the chest, into the belly, and relax. As you're still breathing, I want you to give yourself permission to walk through the fog that is maybe confusing you at the moment. and see what's on the other side. Ask the third party narrative permission for the fog to dissipate and have it dissipate. Now you will see clearly what's in front of you. And however challenging what's in front of you is, at least you can see it now. I want you to take a deep breath into your belly, into your chest. And I want you to give yourself permission to walk through this challenging scenario, having total clarity of what it is you see. Making peace with what it is you see. I want you to visualize that you're having the conversations that you need to have in order for you to have peace, respite, and get to where you need to be. Take a deep breath. Enjoy the air oxygenating your body, calming you, giving you clarity. If something arises, remind yourself that the third person narrative is there to help you out. It is a guide that you yourself create to give you a helping hand and tell you the things that are needed to get through to the next phase of your life. Take a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. When you're ready, please start moving the fingers and the toes. If you're seated, open your eyes and relax. So beautiful people, I hope you found this inspirational. If you have any comments, you could send them to me on the chat. I want to wish everybody a really amazing night. I might do this again Tuesday or Wednesday. I want to talk about the emotional functions of your organs and your glands and how they help or impede you from moving forward. We're going to talk about chakras. We're going to talk about like the elements in Chinese medicine. It's going to be super, super fun. And it's going to be about this long, between half an hour to an hour. I love you and namaste.